If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Digital Marxism. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Karl Marx called for workers to have ownership of the means of production. When he wrote the Communist Manifesto with Friedrich Engels in 1847, they didn't. In 2023, they do. You see, we've moved from a production to an information economy. Digital economics. Now, the term digital Marxism was invented by Daniel Pink in his 2002 book titled Free Agent Nation. The book is mostly about the rise of the gig economy, which I explained in more detail in podcast number 51, titled God's Gig Economy. One of the chief enablers of the gig economy is digital Marxism. Okay, Marx stated that workers must own the means of production. This is based in the fallen nature of humans that we find in the Christian worldview. We believe God created a perfect world. Fallen humans messed it up. And we find salvation through the acceptance of Jesus Christ as our Savior. Clearly, Karl Marx didn't believe in the first and third parts, but he did accept the fallen nature. I have more to say about him in podcast number 106 titled Karl Marx and the Devil. The fallen nature is important to economics, by the way. Economics is a study of the production and distribution of goods and services in a scarce environment. Scarcity started with a fall, and just about every important economic concept is based on the scarcity assumption. And that's why digital Marxism is so fascinating. So, Marx looked at the fallen nature of demanders of labor in the middle of the 19th century, and he noticed they were taking advantage of the scarcity they owned, that is, the supply of work. And Marx had a lot to complain about. Child labor, terrible dangerous working conditions, and probably a 6 or maybe even a 7-day work week were common in that time period. There was more supply than demand for labor, and the factory owners took advantage of labor. But then as the century progressed, things didn't get worse, as Marx predicted. Instead, they got better. So Marx and his patron, Friedrich Engels, finally surmised that their prediction was not coming true, and workers were not going to rebel on their own. So socialism needed a push, which was provided by the political force of communism. Vladimir Lenin enters the picture in the early years of the 20th century, and the economic idea of socialism rightly earns a very bad reputation as it was enforced by political power. Things haven't changed much in 100 years. Socialism is still based in power. Karl Marx claimed that workers must own the means of production, as I said earlier. As Daniel Pink points out in his book, in the information age, they do. I asked my students at Dallas Baptist University to picture either of their parents at work. What are they doing? In the information age, it's very likely they're staring at a computer screen or talking on a smartphone. Okay, there's 3 elements going on here. Number 1, training. You get training on how to run a computer free at a tax-supported school. 2, the mechanism. A computer costs maybe $500 and a smartphone maybe about the same. If you can't afford a computer, you can use one at the public library for free. And if you can't afford a smartphone, the government will give you an Obama phone. And for those of us who know the phrase, there's no free lunch, take a look at your cell phone bill. You paid for it. Okay, our third part. Distribution of information. It's almost free. Again, if you use the computer at the library, they provide the internet service for free. And if you have an Obama phone, you get the service for free from the federal government. Freedom of labor. You can work for anyone. Discrimination is illegal, and as I point out in podcast number 33, titled Ending Discrimination, it can't exist in a competitive environment. Freedom for labor to work anywhere, anytime, is increasing in the information age. Neil Ferguson at the Hoover Institute at Stanford showed a video of a riot in the United Kingdom. Young people were protesting about unemployment. The news commentator turned toward the camera and stated, "Look at them, they have nothing." Mr. Ferguson stopped the video and calmly pointed out that the young protesters had a free education and free health care in the UK. I would add, at least in my community, many of the best students graduate from high school with a junior college degree for free. Yes, I said for free. You see, Marx was right in the middle of the 19th century. Workers had nothing, but that was in the production economy. In the digital economy, each person owns their own factory for producing information. What is it? A computer and a smartphone. Freedom of movement. You can live anywhere. I've mentioned in podcast number 131, titled Abraham and Wealth Migration, about the economic and regulatory impetus that has encouraged people to move from California and New York to Florida and Texas. In the information age, because of these extremely cheap instruments I've talked about, the computer and the smartphone, you can live just about anywhere. This is great for the economy. Before this, with freedom of movement, firms could choose labor only from the pool of people who lived within physical commuting distance. And now that people are free to move anywhere, and employees are free to hire labor who lives anywhere, freedom has expanded. Yeah, in the other course I teach at Dallas Baptist University, Strategic Management, we study Michael Porter's 5 forces of industry analysis. He says if you look at the power of suppliers, buyers, substitutes, rivalry, and entry, you can predict the future success of an industry. Let's talk today just about the cost of entry, which has been reduced to near zero in the digital age. As I mentioned earlier, you get training, the mechanism for production, and distribution of information almost free. Freedom of information. In their book titled Superabundance, Marian Tupy and Gail Pooley explain how products and services are superabundant when you consider what you're paying for them in time, price. Now, that's how much time you have to work to buy something. Lighting is a classic and extreme example. 150 years ago, folks used candles that were very expensive and quite dangerous. Well, then they were blessed to use kerosene lamps. They're much cheaper and more effective. Then came the incandescent bulb powered by electricity that transformed life. Now, think about it. Before that, life basically followed the movement of the sun. You were active when the sun was up, you slept when it was dark. It was very difficult and expensive to produce enough light to do anything at dark time. Okay, then came the light-emitting diodes known as LEDs. Tupy and Pooley point out that the time price to buy the lumens necessary to light a room is extremely, almost ridiculously cheap. Yes, you have to pay for the bulb, but the power to light it is almost insignificant. If you serve on your church board, I hope you've noticed how blessed you are to be paying an electric bill that powers LEDs compared to wax candles from only 150 years ago. Okay, distribution. Now, in the 1950s, when I Love Lucy was popular, information moved through a very narrow tube. First, there were only 3 channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC. As a side note, I grew up in the plains of South Dakota, where we only received 2 networks. So folks in my generation talk about TV shows from that 3rd network that I never saw. Okay, not only were there 3 pipes of distribution, access to the pipe was very limited. TV was mostly an evening family entertainment, and it was extremely difficult to get a spot on an evening program. And TV broadcasting stopped at midnight. I remember many times in my teens watching TV until they played the national anthem and they signed off. Comparatively, today the distribution pipes are really, really unlimited. You can hold your Obama phone at arm's length and shoot a video that looks pretty much like the broadcast that CBS did with Walter Cronkite 60 years ago. Put the video up on a social media platform, and you're now a broadcaster. And what was the entry fee? It was near zero. Life is better. In 1 Timothy, Christians are called to care for widows and orphans because they didn't own land, which was the means of production in the first century agrarian society. The equivalent in today's information economy is the ability to create value via the digital economy. Just about everyone has access to the digital sources that create value. We have this tendency to think about the past as golden and perfect. It wasn't. God gave us brains that do us the favor of remembering the good things from the past, but forgetting the bad things. But in economic terms, the first line of the book, titled The Great Escape by Angus Deaton is correct, where he writes, "Life is better now than any time in history." And the extension from the Christian Economist is, it's going to get better. Digital Marxism is only one of the economic effects that makes the future better than the past. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time. For more information, please visit us online at davearnott.com. If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them online or in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.